Boker Tov, everyone. Good morning. It's to see everyone. We're at the end of Seif Hey and Siman Reish Nun Bet. More cases that you start something before Shabbat that continues into Shabbat. So here's a little bit of a different case. So says the Shulchan Aruch, Umutar latet chitim letoch rechaim shel mayim samuch lechashecha. You're allowed to put wheat in a mill that's on the water before Shabbat. So what's happening is, imagine you have a river, and then there's like a mill. So the water, this mill is kind of getting like a energy from the flow of the water, and that energy is connected to a rock, and that rock you put wheat in it, and that rock is crushing the wheat to turn into flour. So the way that you could back in the day turn wheat into flour was that way. Or there were some animals. You put this rod of a wooden rod connected to an animal. The animal walks around in a circle, and there's this big rock there on top of another rock. Put the wheat in between, and it crushes the rock. So that putting it before Shabbat with an animal type of mill is not allowed, because your animals they have to keep Shabbat as well. But your kelim don't have to. So if you start before Shabbat, and now the windmill, not the windmill, the water mill is automatically going to keep on going throughout Shabbat. It's going to crush your wheat. You're allowed to do it. But here, the Ramah points out that here's a little bit of a different case than the other cases. Like another case we brought was you put in the dyes before Shabbat, or you put the beer before Shabbat, and it keeps on going throughout Shabbat, getting better and better. Here, what's different is there's hashmat kol. There's a sound going. People know, the mill is on. Now, you could stop that mill by putting, it seems like there's some sort of stone or something that you could stop, that even though the water's flowing, you could stop the whole process, let's say before, at some point before Shabbat, whatever it is, you could stop it. So if it's going on, people are hearing, oh my gosh, the mill is running. So the mill is running, is it a Jewish mill? Is it a lad on Shabbat? The guy's working and crushing his wheat on Shabbat. So we see from the Shulchan Aruch that we're not worried about a process that happens before Shabbat that continues into Shabbat, even if there's hashma'at kol, even if there's a sound of something going on, we're not worried about it. The Ramah says ideally one should not do something that starts before Shabbat and continues into Shabbat that does have hashma'at kol, unless it is it's going to be a loss, or unless it's a real tough situation. And he brings another case that would be allowed, says the Ramah, that they had, let's say, like cuckoo clocks, like a clock that made noise, but everybody knows that you set up that clock before Shabbat. So it just keeps on running, and it runs through Shabbat as well, and with weights, that's how it works. So therefore, cuckoo's on Shabbat, we can know what the time is, but that makes noise, but everybody knows you set it up before Shabbat. He's not worried about. So in a case where everybody knows you set it up before Shabbat, he's fine with the Ramah. But what if you set it up before Shabbat, but not everyone knows? You see like a mill running on Shabbat, not everyone knows. The Shulchan Aruch is fine with that. The Ramah is only fine with that if it's a difficult situation. If it's, again, a makom pseda, it's a need, it's a difficult situation. Now, if that mill belongs to a goy, everyone knows, it belongs to a goy. The goy is doing the work. And even if you might think, maybe the goy is doing the work for the Jew, like we've had many cases beforehand. Maybe the Jew made up with him beforehand, they made a price already, so the goy is working on his own, doing it on his own. Even if it's a Jewish mill that's rented from the goy, that could also work out. He brings a case in brackets that number one is the Jew can't stand there on Shabbat to make sure his wheat is being processed properly, obviously. But what's also obvious maybe is if it's Letzorech Pesach, so let's say you give your wheat to the goy to turn into flour, and that flour you're going to make matzah. You want to make sure there's no water involved, because that can make it to chametz. So you give it to the goy before Shabbat, and you see that he's processing it on Shabbat, or it's going naturally. You put it into this watermill, and it's going naturally over Shabbat. Because it's Letzorech Pesach, you're allowed to stand around to make sure there's no chametz involved, and you're even allowed to tell a Jew, to hire a Jew, don't talk about the money on Shabbat, but you can even hire a Jew to watch, to make sure that the goy who's maybe operating it doesn't steal your wheat as well. So that's something interesting, Letzorech Pesach. We'll end over here, but just a application, which we'll talk about next week, is, Rav Ovadia brings a case, let's say Chayalim, soldiers, he brings a case like this, soldiers come back home before Shabbat, and they only have a short time off. So they come, let's say, right before Shabbat, but they want to wash their clothes. So they put their clothes in the wash, right before Shabbat, and it keeps on washing on Shabbat, but there's hashmat kol, there's sound going, the washing machine is on. So they come home from shul, imagine, oh, the washing machine's on, what's going on over here? Can't wash on Shabbat. No, it started before Shabbat. But there's hashmat kol, can you do it, can't you do it? So Shulchan Aruch doesn't worry about it. The Ramah does worry about it, but if it's letzorech, then there's a need, even according to Ashkenazim, it would be allowed. Okay, I already gave you the answer for next week, but there's more cases like that, B'ezrat Hashem. Mincha tonight at 6:45. Have a good day, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. Tanei D'Eliyahu.